Hey, you guys, it's your girl, Jamekia Anderson, and I am here to be your teacher's teacher. So I have this firm belief that, like the old saying says, it is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I believe for myself that we are both the student and the teacher. What you do when in terms of studying is what prepares you to teach yourself, for you to be able to learn and grasp knowledge at different levels. Yes, there are other individuals who can help facilitate your learning, but you ultimately are the number one person, the number one teacher in this aspect of things that we call life. And I'm going to take a walk down a lot of different lanes, if you don't know by now, to explore what we call English language arts. We're going to be looking at movies, we're going to look at, a number of things. Like I said earlier in another video, we're looking at literature, we're looking at informational text, all these different things. And I'm also going to be pulling in real world context life, because of course language arts is one of those subjects that allows us to pull in the science, we get to pull in history, we get to pull in math, all of the things. So it is a very diverse um area of study, and I love it all. So for today, what I'm going to do is we're going to dive into the benchmarks, the Florida benchmarks, which is used to be the Common Core standards, but now they've changed. I think this is year two for them to fully have the teachers diverse in it. However, it has been given to us. I think they did about 2 years ago, so this would be a total of year four. The first year was for teachers. When I say us, teachers to kind of be introduced to it, to explore it. The second year, they actually wanted us to explore as far as to see what the layout was. The second year was to kind of mix and mingle and see how it adjusts with the old standards. The third year, the teachers actually had to implement it, which I was so excited. And then of course this is year four, and hopefully I am not in the school system this year, so hopefully they're doing a great job disseminating this information out to teachers. If not, you're here with me, and I definitely will assist because it's what I love to do. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we're going to take a look at these standards. All right, so hopefully you guys can see my screen, and hopefully you can hear me. Let me move my microphone a little closer, be in front of me. All right, so this here is the Florida Best Standards, English Language Arts. When you go through this, and all you have to do really is do a Google search if you want to. If you're parents or students who are looking at it, trying to figure out what your teachers are trying to teach you, if you're a new teacher, hopefully this guide will assist you a little bit when it's time for you to be building your I want to say syllabus, but some teachers have it, some don't. But doing your lesson plans. So this will assist you in doing so. I'm just going to do like a brief overview of this standard, and then just stay tuned for other videos because I may do some lesson plans. Everyone has different expectations from different schools, so I'll show you some of the things that I was exposed to. But you show me what you need and I'll assist you where you need to be where you need to be assisted. Okay, so going through this is the best standards. Again, all you have to do is you can do a Google search. Hopefully you guys can still see the screen. All you have to do is type in Florida Best Standard, as you can see here in all my business, and it's the first thing that comes up. Is a PDF. You could do literature or mathematics, whatever it is. I'm doing literature because that's my groove. So if you scroll down in this document, it gives you everything you need to know. There's your table of contents. It does a brief introduction on all the different things. And I'm just going to go and touch on some of the things that I love from this. All right. So the first thing that you do, if you go to, this will be page 8. Of course, it's 10 in this, in the grand scheme of things, but it's page 8. This tells you about the ELA expectations. So these ELA expectations is for all grades K through 12. So that's why you see here it says ELA K1, 2. That's all English classes. No matter what it is, will have these basic skills that are to be formulated as the student progress. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of them. The first one is citing evidence and explaining or justifying reason. As a kindergarten, what this probably would look like is they ask a basic question: who is such and such? Who is Timmy? Or why is Timmy upset? Why is Timmy mad? Timmy's mad because Erica took the ball, right? So how do you know this? And then the kids explain using pictures or whatever else. As you get older, then we're looking more at the literature side of it, or the text that's actually there. This person said, this is how we know that they feel this way, whatever else. And of course, you'll be pulling in or stacking other standards on top of it to make it a more complex or rigorous activity. The next one, reading grade comprehensive, or excuse me, reading and comprehending grade level complex text with proficiency. So of course, as you know, they have, and I will show you this in later in the video, they have specific text that's designed for each grade level. So the teacher can choose those particular texts because they're already dedicated or designated, excuse me, as that grade level text. You're going through to make sure that your students can read it, they comprehend it. They're asking those questions, whether it's in the actual book that is provided, which is a Pearson book, or whether you're bringing in chapter books or whatever else. You have to make sure that your questions that you provide to your students are set up so that it is rigorous for the student. And of course, there may be some videos that I do that kind of goes over all these things. So the longer you stick with me, the more we'll cover. The next one, making inferences to support your claim. So again, going back to the explaining of the text, saying, well, I know this because, you know, they have on, I know it's raining because they have on a raincoat, or I know that it's going to rain because they pulled out a umbrella. It's certain things that you know, or I know it's hot because, or I know it's sunny because it's the daytime, or it's the summer, or whatever it is within the text. The students are just supposed to be able to make certain connections from what they're reading to their real life and their experiences. So if you're able to bring in any previous experiences into the learning and the lesson, this is showing that the students can understand or even guess what is going to happen next or later, right? So that's the building of an inference. Appropriate collaborative techniques, active listening, engaging in discussions. Of course, this is when they bring in that and I need to do a video on that too. I always say, what is it called? I don't even know why I'm catching a blank, y'all. Sorry. Think, pair, share. Y'all know what it's called. I'm not sure what the title is, but Kagan strategies. Boom, that's it. So this is when they bring in the Kagan strategies. So you have your students working with their table partners or their shoulder partnering or whatever else, and making sure that their discussions, whether it be pulled from the book or something that you personally put as an assignment to the kids, make sure that that you're facilitating their conversations and that they're on task. And then also making sure that they're bringing in the text, again, going back to citing their textual evidence to prove their reasonings for whatever inferences that they're supporting. So even these standards will stack on top of each other as you go over. Using acceptable rules governing a specific format to create quality work. This, of course, can be your rubrics as a teacher, or if you have question stems or sentence starters or whatever else. These are, or even telling them, when we're in those groups and you say, well, a person with the shortest hair talks first, the person with the longest hair, you're writing it down, or if you have each individual at the table doing different tasks, all of this would play into that EE 5.1. If I'm moving too fast, speaking too fast for you guys, please let me know in the comments, because I have a tendency to do so. But I want to make sure that I'm giving you as much information as possible in these videos, and that they're jam-packed full of information. And you should be able to, especially as a new teacher, you should be able to play this a couple different times and just really get a grasp on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Okay. The last one, 6.1, use an appropriate voice and tone when speaking or writing. And this, especially in terms of speaking, making sure that because in the older grades, so middle school to high school, there will be presentations. Make sure that the students are able to voice out and speak in a specific tone. Make sure that they understand the difference between speaking with their friends and speaking with academic individuals. Also in their writing, make sure that it's academic writing, taking out a lot of the slang. Unless they're doing creative writing, there's ways to incorporate certain things, but having your students really understand the difference and what's expected in their writing as the academic versus in their everyday writing and correspondence. All right, so these expectations here again is on page 8 in this PDF. It says 10, but that's because it includes the opening of the books in the what is it called? Table of content. But again, page 8. So if you have your book from the district, you can always open this up, go to page 8, see the expectations. I would definitely recommend putting a tab there, because even if you are in a place where you're testing or I'm trying to think, when you're testing or different things like that, you can always have these expectations up. What I did in class was I printed out a copy of this and actually had it up there as, just our generic always standards, because regardless of what you're doing, you're going to be able to come through and at least look at the first 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, and 4.1. You should be hitting all of them every day, honestly, but it's the basics. All right. So outside of that, if you go down to the next page, so this is page 9, it just breaks down what it looks like. So the subject area, ELA, that's the English Language Arts. Your grade level would be next. So if you're on any of the other pages, if you look up to the thing, the first number that you see after ELA lets you know what grade level you're in, so you can make it the correct adjustment. And then, of course, the strand. So this one here is reading. R is for reading, and it says it here over to the side. And then, of course, the standard 1.1, the benchmark is usually 1, 2, 3, 4. It may have went up to 6. I'm not exactly certain, but we'll see as we continue to go along. So you have foundational strands, which is usually just kindergarten through first or second grade. If you have any ELL students, so English language learner students, LY student, well, the LY students should have evolved from that point, but at least the ELL students, the first and second years, you may still touch on some of the foundational skills. If you have if you're an intensive reading teacher, you can always go back to some of the foundational skills as well, because it's based off of what the students are really lacking, and you have to make sure that you're in a place where you're filling in those gaps. Most of your English teachers, English language arts teachers, especially 6th grade on up, you're not touching on those foundational pieces for the most part, unless you have a student, which has happened, who is entirely new to the school or whatever have you. But you're still, in general, you wouldn't touch on it, because that would be their intensive reading teacher, and then also their I forgot what it is, but there's usually like a Spanish class that has English or whatever else. But whatever that other class is, they usually are doing the very basics for that student. But you want to make sure that you're able to know the difference, see the difference, know what your student needs, especially one-on-one, because in a whole group environment, you wouldn't touch on those at all. In a small group environment, you may be able to teach and facilitate in those areas just to fill in some of the gaps. Again, down here, reading, communication, and vocabulary, you're gonna see those the absolute most. All right, so here it breaks it down as well. So like I was stating to you guys before with the strands, your foundational strands, these help you understand what the standards are. Usually it's first and second grade. Your reading here, you would go into R1.1. So these are just broken down into like whether it's literature, elements, themes, perspective and point of view, poetry, all of these aren't really the grade level, but within each grade level, you're going to hit on all of these functions. Again, we don't deal with foundational studies in a secondary, just FYI. And yeah, I'll give y'all little hints and stuff along the way when you can pull in certain things. If you have any questions, just make sure you write me in the chat. I will definitely try to get back with you guys as soon as possible. All right, so same thing goes here with communication, with vocabulary. So I'm going to skip through some of these things, of course, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into middle school. I'm going to focus primarily on 8th grade because that was the last grade that I taught. However, if you guys need anything specific for middle through high school, you're looking at a specific grade level, then let me know. And I'll focus in on that in the next video or do something specific for you guys. But again, all it is just to write me and let me know what you need me to do. All right, so here's the 8th grade place. I always tell the teacher to look at what you're teaching, but also look at what happened the year before, because this gives you the ability to know what the students should have learned. And typically 9 times out of 10, there's not much of a change, probably 1 or 2 words. So I'm going to, I don't know if, let's just copy this twice. Because you guys should be able to see this. And we're going to go to 7th grade. All right. So this is 7th grade, and I'm just showing you this because I want you to be able to see the small differences. So this one says for 7th grade, okay, analyzing the impact of setting on character development and plot in a literary text. For 8th grade, the same standard, analyzing the interaction between character development, setting, and plot in a literary text. So your students may not know, we got character development, we got plot. They may not know how to analyze the interaction between the settings on top of the character development and the plot. So analyze the impact of setting on character. So they looking at the setting on the character, how the setting impacts the character development and the plot. Here, we're looking at the interactions between the character development, the setting, and the plot. So you'll be doing 3 different things opposed to looking at your setting between the 2. I don't know if that makes sense for y'all, but when we go into breaking it down and doing a lesson, it may make a lot more sense then. However, I might do a couple. Ooh, y'all got to tell me how much y'all know and how much y'all don't. I'm going to be one of those people who's going to kind of assume that you don't know anything and teach you everything. And you can figure out what you need as you go along. So you'll be able to like fast forward through this like double time. I listen to most videos double time. So you'll probably be able to do the same and figure out what you need. But anyway, these standards, what I usually like to do, this one here is talking about reading prose and poetry. So, however, even though it says that, you're able to use some of these standards in any literary text. So your literature or your literary text could be a short story, it could be a drama, like it says, poetry. What else? I need to do y'all remind me if I don't. I need to do a video for informational text and literature, because I've taught my students something a little different between the two. Just a little razzle dazzle. All right, so anyway, any other things would be your fictional narratives. I said dramas. So short story, novels, myths, because I am looking over here on my list, you guys. I got to keep myself organized. Also any type of sonnets. Well, your poetry would be like your sonnets, fee verse, haikus, different things. And it's up to you what you wanna focus in on. And drama, so comedy, tragedy, all that stuff. So we're good to go on that. All right, here's what happens when you are teaching a lesson. I would always suggest you have if it's a poem, have the poem to the side. If it's a story, have the short story to the side and see what all is entailed. So for instance, let's break this down real quick. When you come to this, the first piece is just talking about reading, right? You have the prose and poetry. So you have literary elements. This can be in any type of short story. Then we talk about themes. Here it says your perspective and point of view. Again, this here is focusing on the author's development. So that's going to be one piece. And then the second piece, because you got the end, And I know that they used to teach us how to like circle. I'm gonna do all of that. I'm gonna jazz it up for y'all. All right. So you're also looking at the individual perspective of different characters. So there's gonna be two pieces to this one standard. And I'll break it down for you guys because I just am that girl. All right, you have specific poems. So also remember, right, in your poems, you have your structure, your sound, figurative language. You're going to go down some more and you're going to see more about structure. So this is talking about like the purpose, central idea, all this good stuff, learning across different genres. So interpreting figurative language. Usually if you see stuff that's co-aligning, you should know that you should be able to stack it. So just like this one up here previously said poetry, yeah, here. And it talked about figurative language. If you know your story or your poem has a lot of figurative language in it, then turn around, look for the other one that says figurative language. And where did I just see that at? And make the connections at the end of the day. Here you go, interpreting figurative language. So that's how you can sometimes stack your standards. Also, if you're having your students write, so say for instance, there's a short answer response within within a particular poem or questions that's in the book, come down to the communication through writing and choose whichever one comes or correlates with the question that's being asked. That's also a part of stacking your standard. So look at the questions that the book provides. Do not try to reinvent the wheel. Please don't. It's just you making more work for yourself. We are not here to make more work for ourselves. We're here to relieve some of it because the district, the school, the parents, everybody's already putting a lot on teachers. Don't go for the okie doke, okay? So if there's a short answer response or a long answer response, come here to your communication through writing, choose this standard and allow that to be a part of your lesson plans as well. Put it into the lesson plan. So remember, if it's a poem and you know it has figurative language, look for all your standards that say something about figurative language. If you're going to have your students speak orally, come through the communication piece. If they're writing and then they're going to turn around and read it out loud to the class, or if you're doing a think, pair, share, and then have the students raise their hand and respond to the answer, that's communicating orally. Come down and put out which pieces that you are doing it. Following conventions. Usually you can always use one of these because they should be, when they're writing, using grammar, punctuations, and capitalizations. This is something that you can have as an ongoing standard on your documentation. Research, creating collaborations. These two would come later because it's a little bit more detailed. But coming down to, again, if we're dealing with figurative language, you should always be able to come in and pull in vocabulary because students, whether they're doing multiple choice, which would mean that they're going to be looking at their academic vocabulary and they're explaining it to you. If they're having a conversation, again, with a think, pair, share, or round robin or whatever other Kagan structure you decide to use, then they're going to be finding meaning. They have to be able to express and understand these words. So this is a way that you can stack your standards. So know what you're doing. First off, know your standards and then know what you're asking your students to do and how it's pulled in through some of the questions that are within the book or the short answer responses or long answer responses that you're choosing for them. And then the last thing that is here, because this video, you guys know I'll go all over the place, but this video is primarily just for you to get used to looking at the benchmarks and knowing where certain things are. Here, this will also assist you in understanding what standards you are going to be using with what text. So of course, here's some simple text by the benchmarks. You can either look at the benchmarks and decide which text you want to use by looking at it. I know that they were starting to create maps, especially in Polk County. That's primarily where I was working. They were starting to create maps that had specific stories during specific times of the year. So you can also look at that. Or you can choose a story because ultimately this is what it's set up for. You could choose a story and then employ your standards based off of the story that you've chosen. So you already know what should be expressed with going over that story. But if you look even closer, like I stated before, if you know um, what the questions are asking you, then you can know how each specific standard needs to be addressed, or each specific standard tie it to a question or a few questions that's within the lesson, so that you can know specifically whether or not your student is getting that particular standard. So if you're stacking and you have 6 or 7, usually I would keep mine to 5. I get a little sporty from time to time. But if you're stacking, you have 5 standards that's listed. Usually I would take one of the questions, have the question connected to the standard. So if we're doing a standard for 2 to 3 weeks, because that's usually what I would do. If we're doing a specific standard 2 to 3 weeks, I would make sure that there's at least one question posed that goes with that standard, so I can make sure that the student is still remembering what that standard is requesting of them. And I can even express that to the student that, hey, you already know 1.1 because we did this particular week. So this question number 2, is a 1.1 question. All it's asking you is asking you about the character development. Or I will read the question and say, is this dealing with character development, the setting, or the plot? The students will answer, and then I'll say, okay, we've already done this for however long. You have this. Because a lot of what's happening, especially in underprivileged economic areas, the students just really need a lot of reinforcement and need to understand that they already know the task at hand. They already know how to answer these types of questions. The questions may have just adjusted or gotten more complex, but the skill is already within them. So again, this last couple of pages that are here, and it's at the back of each one, the last couple of pages that are here just shows you what poems or short stories that you're allowed to do. I do highly recommend, especially if you're in Polk County, to go back through and look at the county recommended stories, because some of the stories that are listed here, when they place this out, they sent it out, they wind up adjusting the reading levels. So some of the stories that were considered an 8th grade story, like the yellow wallpaper and was it the Raven? There was another one by Edgar Allan Poe. But it was no longer considered a 8th grade text. It went to 6th grade. I know definitely it was the yellow wallpaper. And the one about the eye. It was an Edgar Allan Poe. I can't even think of the name right now. But I know those did adjust and become a 7th grade text. Those were ones that I enjoyed. So that's how come I know. But again, you guys, there are tons of other resources. Usually the school or the district pushes out resources. They have chapter books that you can use. So just know what it is that they're providing. I really don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I know that some people do. That's your business. But go through, understand your resources and how to use it. Hopefully you guys gain some clarity out of this and how to stack the standards a little bit. But I'm going to be coming back to you and we'll talk about a couple different things, because I definitely want to do some lesson plans, things like that. So again, let me know what you're interested in learning. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe, like this, share it out, and chat with me. I'm a lovely conversationalist. But yeah, you guys, so let me know what you need, and I'll make sure that I'm providing you with resources that you actually are able to use. And of course, we'll come back and you guys let me know how it is, how you've been implementing it. If you need implementation assistance, whatever it is that you desire, let me know so that I can assist you in that way. All right, you guys. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to say bye to you guys for now and come back to you with a couple other resources soon. All right. Bye, y'all.